Before we begin this podcast, please be advised that the following episode contains language that some listeners may find offensive and inappropriate. The opinions expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not reflect the views of the podcast producers. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back to this episode of Voices of a Killer featuring the true crime story of Samuel Howard. Where we last left off in Samuel's story, he and his nephew were chasing through Kennett, searching for the town bullies Terry and Bear. We now pick up moments before the fight, as Steve looks to get even on his long-held grudge on this episode of Voices of a Killer. So, how many places do y'all go till y'all found him? It was the second place?
It was the third place where we finally found him. He was at his house. We went by his brother's shop.
So y'all went by the house, y'all saw the vehicles there?
When we got to the house, we seen that the vehicle's there, and he basically called him out into the street for a fist fight.
So y'all pull up to the house. What does the house look like? Are people outside, or is it just, or what?
No, it was, they were all inside, just very dimly lit. It had just been storming earlier that night. It was about 8:20 when we pulled up.
So y'all pull up to the house, and there's nobody outside. Who gets out first? Do you wait in the vehicle, or do you both get out of the vehicle?
He got out first.
And did you wait out in the vehicle, and he went and knocked on the door, or did he yell out the window?
I stepped out of the vehicle and shut the door and was just standing in the road.
Did he go knock on the door?
Yes.
Who answered the door first?
Terry. He said something to the effect of, "What's he want now?" or something like that.
Terry did? The victim? Yeah. And did your nephew, Bowen, did he go off on him and start saying, "Come on outside, I want to fight you"? Or what did he do?
He basically, he called Terry out. He said, "Come out here in the road now," and basically told him he's going to whip his butt.
Whenever he said that, he called him out like that at his own house. Did Terry seem scared at all? Did he flinch, or did he come right out of there to fight?
He came right out, and
they locked
so
up
did
right away?
They, as soon as they got out into the street, they locked up and started fighting. Yes.
Who was getting the better of one of the other at the beginning?
Terry was at first. He hit my nephew and knocked him back, and my nephew somehow used when his back hit the car, he used the recoil of coming off of the car and managed to get it. I still think it was probably a lucky shot. Managed to hit Terry and knock him down.
Yeah. What were you doing at that moment whenever those two instances happened, getting knocked down? Are you just...
I looked at the guy, they called him Bear. I knew this guy, Bear Luttrell.
Y'all knew each other?
Yes. And I basically said, "Hey, just stay out of it. It's just between them." And he pointed his finger and he said, "All right, you stay out of it too."
And you both stayed out of it for then?
Up until the point that my nephew knocked Terry down.
Yeah. So that time that whenever he finally turned around and knocked Terry down coming off the car, is that whenever Bear decided to make his move, or what happened?
Yes. He was a little closer than I was. He took about 2 or 3 quick steps and grabbed my nephew from behind. And I noticed that he had a knife to his throat.
He had a knife through his throat. Now, let me ask you a question. It's you, Bear, Terry, your nephew, Bowen, and there's somebody else that was able to hear everything that's going on, and it was a female.
There was 2 females that came out into the yard, the wives of the guys that ended up getting shot and killed.
So so women that are on their side, right?
Exactly. They were doing whatever their husbands asked them to do.
So he produced this knife, and he actually, which one, Bear or Terry pulls out the knife? Bear produced the knife and grabbed my nephew from behind and put the knife to his throat. Whenever he put the knife to his throat, how far away were you watching this?
I was probably about 10 feet away, and there was nothing I could do at that point.
What's Terry doing in this moment?
He got up, went over into the yard, picked up a stick of firewood, and came back and started beating my nephew with a stick of firewood while his buddy held him from behind. at that point, they took him from the street over into the yard and pressed him up against the left driver's side of the car.
So let's stop right here. I want to fast forward a little bit all the way till examination of your cousin. Did he have any bruises of somebody beat him with a stick?
Well, it took them like 3 days to even do an examination from after it happened on the 23rd. We didn't turn ourselves in until the 24th.
Okay.
They waited about 3 or 4 days. So it was well past when they should have.
And that's going to be the big issue also of you guys not stick around. But anyway, so now you're saying that Bear has a knife to his throat and Terry's beating him with a stick. Is that whenever you decide you're going to go over the car and retrieve a weapon?
No, I knew there wasn't any weapons in the car that would do anything. I went back to the truck and started looking in the bed of it. And in the process of looking in the bed, I realized that nothing that would be in the bed of the truck would do any good. And I happened to look up into the rearview mirror of the truck and saw a .22 rifle hanging in the truck like a gun rack. And I pulled out the .22 and tried to bluff him into turning him loose, to just hold the .22 and say, hey, turn him loose and I'll take him and just leave. And that seemed to infuriate him.
Samuel tells me that the confrontation with Terry blew up into more than he'd bargained for. For most of the fight, he waited on standby as Terry and Steve wrestled in the street. It was Terry who initially had the upper hand, until Steve caught a lucky hit right across Terry's jaw. From here on, things turned ugly. Bear jumped in and locked Steve down at knife point, while Terry beat him with a piece of firewood. With a knife pressed against his throat, Steve was utterly overpowered and helpless. His life was in serious danger. Desperate to save his nephew, Samuel intervened. He scavenged through the truck that Steve's brother had been driving and pulled out a rifle that, by pure chance, was resting on the back car door. And though he aimed the barrel at Terry, Samuel tells me that he didn't ever intend to shoot. His hope was that by upping the ante, Terry and Bear would back down and the fight would dissipate. As it turned out, that was wishful thinking. We'll hear more about that after the break. I was going to ask you if you tried to bluff and maybe fire off the gun and see if they would stop.
No, so I didn't try to fire it off.
Here's what I'm extremely surprised of them not stopping when you pulled the gun out, because most people respect guns, especially if there's two guys. Now, here's my thing: is you're claiming self-defense, and I'm certain that there was some moments where this guy's life was in danger and stuff like that. But there's two people involved, and I'm reading this fucking court document, and you fucking blasted these people, dude.
The toxicology came back. They tested for alcohol. They were 3 times the legal level of legal intoxication, according to toxicology. The problem was that they did not do, according to the pathologist that came in and testified, he said he did know talk for methamphetamines, and I was claiming that they were out of their minds on methamphetamines,
and I could see that. You know, I wasn't there, but so you basically try to get them to stop. They're extremely intoxicated.
Yes.
And who's the first person that you feel like you need to go after lethally?
Well, I waited until he sent his wife Bridget in the house after 30:30. And he turned around and pointed at me and said, wait right there. As soon as I get my gun, I'm going to kill you. And I said, Terry, please, just turn him loose and I'll take him and leave. I said, why are you wanting to kill him in the first place? And he said, that's none of your fucking business. But he said, he's going to die. One way or another, he's going to die. If you stay here, you're going to die along with him. His wife, when she come back out with the gun, she started coming down the steps. And he was right at the bottom of the steps. And right as she went to hand him this lever action 30-30 was when I shot him.
Where'd you hit him first?
I hit him first in the face.
In the face?
And I immediately in the face. I was probably 25 feet. I was standing out like near where the street. I was standing out in the street. And he was up close to the house, up by the steps of the house. And she was in the process of passing the 30-30 to him. And What I did, though, was when I shot him, I immediately changed my line of vision, even though I was still pulling the trigger, and he got hit 7 times. I didn't even know where I was hitting him after the initial first couple rounds, and actually it was too dark out there to aim at anybody. It was just point shooting.
You seem to do really well in the dark. I mean, I know you said you're a sportsman, you hunt and stuff.
I'm an avid hunter. Yeah, I used to point shoot rabbits.
Yeah.
But I looked at the second guy to see. I was hoping he would back away from my nephew, and when I seen that he raised the knife up and started in a downward stabbing motion toward my nephew, that was the point I pulled over and shot him. But what I was hoping was that when he seen that I shot the guy, Terry, that had the 30-30 right there, I was hoping the bear would back away from my nephew and drop the knife, but I think it was due to the drugs they were on and the alcohol, their alcohol level. They just...
What was he, 7 times, what is he doing? Is he trying to... I know at 22 sometimes can only piss somebody off.
I don't know.
That's a lot of shots.
I don't know because... Yes, and what it was that when I changed my line of vision, I guess my finger continued to pull the trigger. It was a semi-automatic 22, and I guess with the fear of he had just made the threat that as soon as I get my 30-30, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah. Well, hold on a second. So, okay, you actually hit him 7 times, and several of those went into his head, right?
3 went in. They said 3 struck him in the face. They said that they claimed that when I changed my line of vision, and my nephews told me this later, they said, yeah, when you was looking over at Bear, you was actually still shooting him, and he trying to run.
What you're saying is you started looking at, like, Bear, but you were actually pointing a gun at Terry?
As soon as I got the initial shot off, as soon as I pulled the trigger the first time on Terry, I immediately changed my line of vision because I knew Bear was holding my nephew still at knife point. So I immediately looked over at Bear to see what is he going to do. Is he going to back away from my nephew at this point, or is he going to try to stab him? And he chose the second option. He chose to try to stab my nephew. He raised the knife up and went in a downward stabbing motion toward my nephew's throat. So I pulled over and shot him. But like I said, it was 8:24 when the shots occurred, according to the police dispatcher.
How many times did you shoot Bear?
I shot him twice, and I didn't know. Like I said, it was dark out there, so you can't aim in the sense of putting a bead in or sight into a bead or anything.
By 8:24 p.m. on December 23rd, 1991, the encounter turned fatal. Both Terry and Bear were shot dead by Samuel in what he alleges was self-defense. Whether his actions were reasonable or not is something that's up for debate. On paper, the level of violence seems extreme. 9 bullets were fired that night, 2 of which hit Terry in the back. That fact suggests that Terry had been in a fleeing position when he was shot, something that conflicts with Samuel's depiction of him as an aggressor who refused to back down. But the way Samuel sees it, shooting Terry and Bear was justified. His nephew's life was in imminent danger, and without Samuel's help, he would have died. In any case, Samuel claims he tried repeatedly to reason with Terry and Bear, but his words were brushed off. Using violence was Samuel's last resort, the only way he saw to save his nephew's life. Next time, we'll hear how this defense held up in the courtroom. If you want to find out what happens next, right now, you can sign up at patreon.com/voicesofakiller. There you can find bonus content, early access, ad-free listening, and access to our chat community. So go to patreon.com/voicesofakiller to sign up now. Your support is what keeps us passionate about bringing these stories to you. That's a wrap on this episode of Voices of a Killer. A big shout out to Sonic Futures, who handled the production, audio editing, music licensing, and promotion of this podcast. If you want to hear more episodes like this one, make sure to visit our website at voicesofakiller.com. There you can find previous episodes, transcripts, and additional information about the podcast. Lastly, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Your feedback helps us improve and reach new listeners. Thank you for your support, and we can't wait to share more stories with you in the future. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Toby, and we'll see you next time on Voices of a Killer.